What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Auto Dealer Live. Thanks for tuning in with us. The show is about to start real soon. Just wanted to give you a quick rundown. The show is going to be great today. We've got some really good guests. We've got Matt Lasco from Lasco Auto Group. Of course, he's the VP there. We've got Ron Boss. He's dealer principal from Spirit Chrysler Dodge Jeep, and he's awesome. He's going to be on the show. He's been on the show before. Same with Lasco. Good friends of the show, but these guys are killing it right now, and we're going to hear a little bit about what they're doing. Plus, we've got Michael Savoboda. Sorry about that. We've got GSM, it's a hard name, GSM of Buchanan Auto Park and Buchanan Chevrolet. He's killing it as well. So we had a killer lineup today. Dave Cribbs, Dave Villa, they're coming on in just a second. They're gonna open up the show, talk about what's going on, talk about what's relevant to you. And again, thanks for tuning in. It's gonna be great. Can't wait.
Hey guys, it's Thursday and I'm excited to bring the heat today, man. I'm ready, man. I got Dave Cribbs in studio and in full effect, man. It feels like things are kind of beginning to get back to normal, man. We actually, I think we've always worked well together, and it's better when we're, in the same room, man. We feed off each other's energy. So welcome back in person. Or is this Cribbs in person, or did we discover how to
Photoshop,
make an avatar?
It's called Photoshop.
It's an avatar.
Artificial intelligence.
So what's up, my friend?
I'd say that we have that anyway, right? Artificial intelligence.
We do. Yes. Yes. My mom always said I wasn't real smart, so I must be artificially
right
smart.
My mom just said, "Hey, it's going to take you a little longer than the other kids, David." But,
have you gotten there yet?
I don't think so.
So a little longer.
But yeah, no, it's definitely a little more challenging to be out of studio and doing the show. But it's good to be here, and we'll be here hopefully from here on.
Amen, amen. Yeah, we're coming. Our state is just announced next week. They're going to be reopening in phase 1 and a lot of things. It's interesting because, we're talking about, it's kind of weird because you want to get, quote unquote, back to normal in some ways. You don't want to talk and quote, we talked about beat a dead horse, but,
yeah.
We're really not. It's just obviously things that are going on, and we'd be remiss to not discuss, life as it is. And I think that's really anything, right? If you look too far ahead in the future, visionary is a great thing, but if you look too far in the future, you're going to miss the pothole in front of you. If you look too much behind you in the past, then you're never going to move forward. So it's really living in the now, right? Anticipating the future and learning from the past. And so, I'm excited to move forward. I think, again, we've discussed a lot that everything we're facing, it's not an obstacle, but it's more of an opportunity. And if you view it that way, right, it can fuel the growth for the future. And the auto business has been really no exception to that. We've watched, dealers just do incredible things. And so as we're moving forward and getting back, we never used to say things like phase 1, phase 2, when people talked about Corona, they were talking about beer. And, I think I saw somebody on some social media that their name was like Juan, their last name was Corona, for real, like no joke, like, not a good time to, not a good last name, so to speak, but it's just a lot of changes. But here's what I want to talk about, Dave. We got some great guests coming on today. We have Matt Lasco, Vice President and GM of Lasco Auto Group. And, Matt's a huge Ford store in Fenton, Michigan, has 2 very strong Mitsubishi points as well. And he's going to be on today. Michigan, as we know, was every state's unique. And I think and that's what's really cool about the guests we've had on recently, because we've been able to tackle, from New York to California to the middle of the nation, whether a store is open for business, whether they're modified to some degree or whether they're doing online deliveries, as one of our guests, Mike Savoboda, which is the general sales manager of Buchanan Auto Park, Buchanan Chevrolet in Pennsylvania, in Waynesboro, and they literally were shut down. Like, dealerships were not an essential business. But just 2 days ago, Mike informed us that they were open for online sales only. So that's going to be an interesting topic. And then, of course, we have Ron Boss, and Ron is the dealer principal of Spirit Chrysler Dodge Jeep, and they're in Jersey. So another state hit probably second, I think, with fatalities and just a lot of diverse opinions and ideas. And we're going to talk a little bit about not only what they've done, but really kind of more or less, Dave, how do we begin looking at reopening? How do we begin, right? What does it look like as we begin to go into this thing, right, with and moving forward? So that's an exciting conversation today.
Yeah, I think, we've all been tuning in over the last few weeks, and just in general out there in the car auto industry, we all know that, hey, we've been impacted. We've taken the precautions. We've adjusted our strategies. We've changed our messaging. We've put in place certain things, and everyone in the country is in a little bit different spot. But now it is time to go forward, and let's talk about, now that we've made the adjustments, how do we grow our business? How do we move forward? How do we take advantage of reopening and maximizing opportunities to make it successful as we do reopen?
Yeah, and and one thing, and this is a really a sad statement, but it's a fact. And I'm going to have you say it because you brought it up and you saw the quote. I didn't, but I've heard this, of course, a couple of different times and from different people in different ways. But the truth of the matter is, this is a time where we are moving forward, but at the same time, what does that look like? And every time we go through challenges in the auto business, and let's just talk about the car business. That's what we're talking about, right? We're Auto Dealer Live. Mm-hmm. Talking about the car business, we've been through some challenges. Each one has been unique. I mean, 9/11 was unique. That time frame in the economy. The cash for clunkers when the economic floor fell out. It was a different time because dealerships were open, they just weren't busy at first, and then they had to modify some things. This is unique in the sense that it's affected everyone, and there's been mandatory shutdowns and different types of things that have prohibited, opening. And so as we move forward, Dave, it's going to look different. And there's a quote that you said you saw, and first let's say that, and let's just talk about it for a minute. It's not a good quote, it's not positive, but it's a fact.
Yeah, it was kind of a dark humor post. It was just, hey, we're going to get through this, and they said, well, most of us. So,
so it's a dark humor quote, but let's look at the fact behind it. It wouldn't even have been funny or, not funny, but poignant,
right.
if it didn't have truth ringing from it, and that's not to obviously to celebrate in any way stretch the imagination. But the fact of the matter is, everyone is not going to move forward. So there's going to be opportunity, for dealerships to do what? What does that look like if you're in an area where possibly maybe there wasn't really the need for that many stores? One of the things that happened in 2008, I don't know how many it was exactly, but I think close to 1,500, 1,700 dealerships closed nationally, and they were bought out, and the manufacturer did what they needed to do, to wind those down. But I almost said at one point, that there really maybe didn't need to be that many. Sometimes they build a Publix or a grocery store, too close to another, and it's maybe it's too premature. So there might just need to be it might be an opportunity for other stores.
Well, it will be an opportunity, if your store is positioned where you're a little bit more financially healthy, number one, than your competitor, because let's face it, you're competing, right, for market share. So, and then, of course, those dealers who have processes in place that not only kind of semi-protect them, but also allow them to have an advantage or an edge over the competition down the street. So you're right. There's going to be those who don't make it through it. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be those who make it through it, but it's going to take a while for them to excel and grow in an area or grow to a place they would probably prefer to be right now or in the near future. But there are going to be those, and hopefully dealers that we're talking to today, hopefully they're in that mix, mm-hmm. that are in a healthier position, and even though they've been affected, mm-hmm. are going to be able to take advantage of things. And really that's what this show is all about, is collaborating with dealers all over the country to kind of figure this out and see how we can excel in this time.
Yeah, and it's again, it's not. Please understand that that's not a good thing for those who may be in charge of those dealerships or what have you. But we're going to talk a little bit too, Matt, Ron, and Mike, about these things, because if you're in the position. Listen, these are three individuals I happen to know that are visionaries and people that, have growth in mind at all times, meaning prior to this, they were banking on having the biggest year of their careers. I know I talked to Mike at Buchanan, and, he had just recently acquired one of their second points as the GM They moved him over. He had record all-time store period record. He was a fairly new GM there. And January was his biggest month in store history. They shattered records, and I'm sure going again, Matt and Ron. These are big stores and stores that are run by visionaries and people that are looking to grow, and had vision in mind. So I'll say this, with that in mind, our cameras are we shouldn't be paying attention to that, but my OCD is like pinging off the roof.
Mine too. While you were talking,
I'm like, yeah.
While you were talking and I was just on screen, at one point I got tempted to try to like do the, the
what
Asian
do they call television.
It? Yeah, the mime.
You can
whatever.
say it's like the Asian, the old school like Asian
voiceover.
Voiceover, yeah.
Dub it.
Yep.
Yeah, just about did that. But
yep. So,
do you remember what you were saying?
No, I do not. I do not. No, but I was talking about these guys being visionaries, and I want to talk to them because when we talk about growth in mind, again, it is a fact. So when we come back, I want to talk about marketing strategies and ways in which we're going to gain territory. Because look, here's the deal. We're most stores, even though a lot of our clients, because there's some things that we're doing, we really saw some stores that we worked with break records in this time frame, but that was, of course, not the majority of the stores, that are out there. So some of these guys you're talking 6 weeks of business that was shot. That was literally, I talked to a dealer last week that had 6 cars out for the month of April, and they normally had 120 by that time.
Yeah,
I mean, so that's virtually
non-existent.
Devastating. So when you come back, if you're in business, then here's the deal: you're going to come back, and what are you going to do? You're going to make up ground. You're going to make up ground. And so one of the ways you can make up ground and then gain past ground is going after, really uncharted and open territory, and really kind of going after, your lion's share, or really more than your fair share. And that's how I visualize some doing it. So I'm anxious to talk to these guys about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So is our panel on already, Michael? Are we ready to go to them? Or
we're just waiting on Michael. I know he was all over today, so he may join us a couple minutes late, but Matt and Ron are on and ready to roll.
Okay. I want to recognize a few people on social media. We got Ron Garbrick. He's a finance director at Street VW in Amarillo, Texas. He's on. We got Christopher Campbell. Thanks for hopping in. Sandy Zanino. She's the HR expert in the automotive industry. She's on. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys, as we'll be jump into our panel here in just a moment.
Yeah, so let's jump in. What do we do? Let's do it. Hey, let's introduce, and we'll wait for Mike's Voda to pop in. When he does, we'll make sure we bring him into the discussion. But right now, we've got Vice President and General Manager of Lasco Auto Group. Look at that, man, in his car there. CrossFit extraordinaire. I think Matt is the only guy that didn't gain weight in this freaking thing, man. All of us, I'm there eating like box of Cheez-Its every week, and every time I see Matt's videos, he looks in better shape. And
I was going to tell you, your left ear is looking really good, though,
David. Thanks, brother. Thank you, man. And then we got, what's up, brother? And then, of course, we have Ron Boss. Ron's the dealer principal of Spirit, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. And then we're going to have Mike Buchanan up in PA join us here momentarily. But thanks, guys, for joining us, and I look forward to a good discussion today. Dave?
Yeah, so Matt, I see you're driving, so make sure you stay safe there. But
I got a driver. We're good.
Oh, okay. Wow, he's got a driver. He's moving up. See, so things are growing over at Lasco.
I had to marry her to get her to drive me, but I've got a driver.
There you go.
All right, that sounds good.
Yeah, what you had to do just now, Matt, is you had to make sure you had to quickly correct yourself from calling your wife a driver. That's what you just did. Listen, I've been married 27 years, brother, this past week, so I know what you just did. He's like, I just called my wife a driver.
By the way, just to throw out before we hit the panel, Mr. Svoboda has joined us.
Mike's on too. Welcome, Mike.
Oh, fantastic.
All right, so we got a full crew here. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. So we'll just go to Matt. Obviously, just in watching the news, obviously we know that Michigan is one of the hot areas in the country that's been affected, and you've been growing a business, an amazing business here for years now, and just talk about where you're at right now, and how close are you guys to, you think, going back to an opening position where you can get things, or try to get things back to normal?
Well, we closed mid-March. I think the date was the 13th.
Matt's going through a dead spot right now.
And you know, we reviewed different things. About 5 months ago, we started online and phone sales. The unique part of it is in Michigan is it is literally you go up for a test drive and not come in. It's a closed showroom. We've changed the whole process, but have found some success with it. Obviously, you put the best people you can on the phone. You be the most transparent and clear you can with a customer, and you work your way through the sale. As far as recovery and change, our state and the sentiment of a lot of dealers and businessmen and such, we're probably going to run this style of business 30 to 45 more days minimum, and it'll still be a version of this coming forward. We have to all accept there's not a cure or a vaccine soon enough to not expect that we're going to have some world of social distancing that we do business in.
Yeah, and you were breaking up a little bit, but we heard enough of what you were saying, and you know, for those that a couple of things I want to bring up what Matt said there. You know, they went to an online, and you know, in one of the things I caught, you know, that Matt said, Dave, and you know, we know Matt, we've known him for a long, long time. He said that, you know, we've had some measure of success at it, and you know, it really comes down to, you know, I'm not surprised. You know, I'm not surprised that Matt and the crew there, you know, do an excellent job, and you know, it takes a little bit of modifying, obviously, and change, but you know, to come back and then to get good at that, that's just because there's really a really solid team there, solid leadership, and so that's not surprising. And you know, that's one of the reasons. Again, if you can learn, you know, Matt, you know, if somebody can learn to adapt and get good, you know, at this modified form, when it does come back to the ability to bring in a traditional form, it only is going to make you stronger, because what you've learned and picked up on, I think, can almost become, you know, a new part of your business moving forward, where it doesn't just replace, it adds to down the road, and it kind of causes growth once you get through it. I mean, are you viewing it that way?
Yeah, we definitely think that we instantly learn some things that we do better, a certain style that we hadn't been doing, and we definitely know that, like, we took it as an opportunity. These things are terrible. It's tough. We've watched everyone suffer, whether it's family, financial, health, hearts pour out. But at the same time, we said, wow, we've never actually got to sit still in an auto dealership. I mean, have you ever started from zero other than a new store? So we dedicated to finding time and process to make ourselves better. That way, when we come back, we at least, like you said, the market hasn't sold. So when it comes back, you better be at your best to captivate it.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things I wanted to talk about, because we've got three scenarios. Again, I'm not familiar 100%. I talked to Paul Sansone over in New Jersey last week, Ron, but I'm not, other than talking to him and finding out that, you know, that there's obviously delivery and some things that you guys are having to do differently there. You know, I know that Mike, you know, I'm going to go to you first, because you guys, if I understand correctly, were not considered essential at all and had to shut down in Pennsylvania totally until just a couple days ago. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. It definitely is 100% correct. There were some notary laws in Pennsylvania that had to change that would prevent doing an online type of transaction. And that we actually did not get clearance and the governor's guidelines till about 2:00 on Monday afternoon.
Wow.
So it's been a month. We had to lay most people off. Coincidentally, or by preparation, we didn't know it was going to come through exactly Monday. I did have a meeting with my management team at 1:00 to discuss when things come back, what it might look like, our marketing plans going forward. And we had we were in the middle of the meeting when we got the green light. So then we had the things, we adapted enough that we had things working within a half an hour of having that green light. So
that must have been some good news, huh?
It was. It was. We used the time prior to that, though, to really look at our business, and ultimately, I mean, you never had. Trust me, I'd never wish this on anybody, but you never have a time to like shut down. And there's a lot of things. If you were closed, you always say if you're closed for 2 days and retrain the staff, there's stuff you could do. So we were utilizing that time and communicating with people that coming out of this. We're on a very limited basis in PA right now. We can't actually do any test drives. The guidelines in PA is we can have one customer in the store at a time, but it is purely just to pick up a car that's already sold. The paperwork and everything needs to be done remotely, either online or through the mail. So using e-notary to notarize everything. So it's been we're real close to the Maryland line. It doesn't seem as restrictive for the Maryland folks. So we're competing with that, and we're competing even earlier in the month with our online presence. We could engage in answering questions, but we couldn't actually consummate a deal. So we were competing with dealers that were open. So we learned how to navigate through that. But ultimately, I think it makes us stronger as a company.
That's good.
Yeah, let's go to Ron because it's interesting. Each of our dealers today have been in an area that's been hit really hard. But I think Matt brought up a really great point, was that this is the first time as a dealer that you could kind of stand still for a moment, right, and start looking at things. And I want to go to you, Ron, and just ask you, right now, based on where you're at and having this little pause, I mean, what are you most focused on? What are you seeing that just has your attention, that this is the one thing we have to get right as we reboot?
I mean,
I got about minutes left. You're welcome to walk right up. This takes you right to the top if you want to look around, you know what I mean, or whatever.
Okay, there we go, Ron.
All right, I'm sorry. We talked a couple of weeks ago, but one of the things that, with the online sales, to what he just brought up previously, is it's very, you have to be very cautious. We have people that walk on the lot, and it's the craziest thing because you can't go out and up them. You have to make sure they have an appointment, and you have to take your precautions and whatnot. We started off where when this all started, so we did manage to keep everybody in service, but I did have to lay off pretty much everybody in sales. But with that being said, what I'm finding interesting is we have two salespeople on. My brother and I are here at the store every day, and the two sales guys I have are pretty experienced, so they're able to take a deal from front to back. So I do have my BDC on, and they're answering leads and stuff like that. But what I'm finding interesting is the whole process is, I have experienced guys that are taking this thing from start to finish. And right now we have 20 deals, over the curb here. What's interesting is close to 15 of them are Ram pickup trucks, and they're all Highline stuff. So I don't know if that's, the message of 0 for 84. We're trying to look, there's a couple of leases, so people are looking for the deal. What's mind blowing to me is these are $50,000, $60,000 trucks. Like, they're not cheap. And, trying to understand the mindset, like, it's, we're sitting here just taking it one day at a time. We can't really, you try to plan, but you're not planning too far ahead because, the rules have changed. There's different things that are happening. Like, we went through last week or the week before with the PPP. And I've never been on more webinars in 1 week than I have in a year. So try to understand that, making sure that's coming and so on and so forth. And then here we are on the other side of this, and I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit, saying, like, I mean, look, I'm a consumer. I don't know how quick I am to go buy a car until I know that some things get back to normalcy. Like, when we get to the other side of this isn't like we wake up and it's a bad dream. The reality of it is, not everybody's going to be back to work.
Yeah.
I don't know how people are going to be so quickly to go to restaurants and public gatherings, and things of that nature. So we have to adapt and, kind of understand, like, this is a very different experience, but yet it seems to be working. We're adapting, like, every dealer, that has an entrepreneurial spirit is going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And we're adapting as well. But every area is a little bit different. Obviously, we're I'm about 15 minutes above Delaware. I'm about 5-10 minutes from Pennsylvania is where my area is. So when Pennsylvania got open, that was it was somewhat of a good thing because I knew that those guys are, they're also going to advertise and kind of put the message out there as we've been putting it out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're just kind of taking it day to day. We're, like I said, service is kind of tapering off. Now we're sitting there going, well, great, we've serviced everybody. If they're not back to work yet, there's no point in reservicing cars. You know what I mean? Like, so we're constantly digging and finding, different ways to where we can, maintain.
It's interesting, you said that, because I want to, I'll go to Matt on this too, but I promise you, this is not it really isn't any sort of way a plug. I just want to follow up on what Ron said, though, regarding the surprisingness of the customers and purchasing and the incentives that are out there. And I mean, I've seen something incredible. And again, every market is different. I think that's probably what I hear you saying is the truth, because it's just so, because here's the reality is, I think that once it opens, and this is just my opinion, I think that there's the entrepreneurial spirit, the businesses. And if they need help, then if they can get that help, obviously, and all of those types of things come into play. But the engine is off, and that's just what it is. And you can't, until the engine's on, I mean, it's just, there's nothing you can really do. And so I think the difference in what you're seeing, Ron, even though there's, is that the engine's off, and I think that once it's on, it's going to be unlike maybe other types of lulls, that it may come back a little quicker only because the engine's on. And we weren't in a situation where people were, not spending before, So it's just a really obviously unique situation. And then you've got every state's different. And that's, again, I guess the thing that makes every one of you at either an advantage or a disadvantage. But I'm watching, as far as pent-up demand on buyers, and this is pretty much across the board. We've put like 70 dealers in the last couple of weeks on a particular program there's zero hooks. I mean, the only message that's being put out is the incentives. Like, Matt, your Ford's got 0% for 84 months and up to 6 months deferred payments. And I think that the average person is looking at these, and saying, I can get 4 months with GM, no payments, or I can get 90 days with Chrysler. Now I got employee pricing, on certain models, and 0% for 84 months. And the deal is this is going to go away, but I'm going to take advantage of this deal. And we're just watching a lot of customers that are responding. So I'm with you. I'm a little surprised. I'm now not surprised. But I was in the beginning, where customers, I'm by the thousands. Dave, am I even exaggerating?
Yeah,
by the thousands
it's been pretty
and
huge.
thousands. I've got my assistant. I've got 5 people out of different divisions in my BDC. I've trained my entire BDC on Facebook. I've never seen so many people respond and never mention coronavirus. So it's really crazy what's going on. There's a lot of customers out there that want to buy. So that's one of the things, Matt, I was going to talk to you about too, like moving forward. And I know you're limited with what you're doing, but there's an advantage to somebody that has the wherewithal to some degree in the marketing knowledge to learn how to capitalize on this pent-up demand. Because if you think about the fact, Matt, that you've sold X amount of cars a month, and every dealer in your market normally sells X amount, and there's thousands of vehicles that weren't sold, customers that didn't buy, that were in the market. And I think, what's your thoughts when you think of that? I mean, does your mind start to kind of put together strategies to some degree, Matt?
Oh yeah, that's the purpose of like I said, being prepped for when the market's there. So can I predict that? When? No. Is it 3 weeks or is it in 55 days? Mm-hmm. But when it's there, you have to have all the stuff in place. Work this team. In our case, we're going to work them a little less right now. So when the market is ready to roll, they're willing to put in the time to take advantage of it. The whole dynamic of inventory is probably the biggest question for us all. Plants are closed. They don't build cars, but then we don't sell cars for a period of time. But we all got shipped a lot of cars. I know that we saw hundreds come in over that period of time. Mm-hmm. Where that all plays, what happens if the clunkers things come out? Does it slow down the used cars? Do I buy used cars? What I think is a good deal right now, because it's $2,000 less this week than last week, but maybe it's $2 more down next week. Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of like day-to-day, you better study your business type of activity right now in the auto world.
That's good. Right there. It's almost like a little miniature, like a stock market.
Yeah, and when we talk about that, when we talk about those finding those opportunities, right, as Matt brought up, that the inventory thing is a huge thing, and it can be really scary to take those gambles or place those bets, right? But at the same time, we can leverage that inventory situation as a way, Dave, to have dialogue with a customer that expresses that sense of urgency and validates what's going on, because it does make sense when you share these stories of what's happening. You can share it in a way that makes sense for the customer. And I'll go back to what Ron was sharing. And, Ron, and you missed it, Matt, when you were off for a moment, but, Ron was sharing that, of 20 vehicles that they delivered recently, 15 were Dodge Ram trucks that were really, up there in price. And it made me think about the fact that I think sometimes, especially during this time, even though the vast majority of Americans are obviously been affected, there are those who not only haven't been affected financially, but even might be prospering in one way or another. So the point is that I believe that those particular people also understand that this is an unprecedented time, and it is a great time to get out and exercise their buying power to put themselves in even a better position. So maybe that could explain what that is. But I think the significance of that is when we're talking with customers to quickly gauge where they're at in this situation, so that we can then tailor that presentation and move that deal further based on who we're actually talking with.
Yeah, there's no blanket for the customers. You're right on point with that. I agree, and we've seen a little bit of that on the vehicle line. We sold a gentleman that was a phone call today, 2 brand new Raptors for $110,000 or something like that. But it was a company that's still doing business, that needed job site trucks, and they're out there. There's still people getting a paycheck every day. I guess that's the thing, is don't tuck your head in the sand right now, because there's still that's why they called us essential the entire years. People still need us to sell them a car. They're in a lease. Their car died. They need a car so when they get a job, they can drive to it. It's reality. There's going to be a ratio out there, and we want to be there for them. I think you just have to be, in our case, what I'm going to talk to my team about the most is being dedicated to being the absolute best in our field. The experience, the payments, the deals, the building value in cars, and the COVID CDC style delivery. Just be our best.
Yeah.
That's all you can do in this scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple comments that came in here, not to toss these your way. We'll let Mike let you comment on them. It says Weldon Whitehurst. Weldon owns an independent store in, I believe, in Carolina. He said, is it possible that this is yet another lesson to be learned? And the fact that customers don't really want to be sold, you present the information to them the way they want to look at it and let them make a choice. That's a good comment there. Chris Campbell said, buy used cars now. Said the ripple effect of plants closing will be felt in the coming months when the new car pipeline dries up, especially with the incentives that are currently out. But I don't disagree with that. But, Mike, I think there's still, like Matt said, just like oil prices are down, but there were more oil that was delivered, 7 times more was delivered last week than a normal week, because it takes time to catch up. So although it may run out, at the same time, there's a lot of inventory on the ground. Mm-hmm. And what's it look like with floor planning? Are the manufacturers going to help with, is there going to be help with floor planning, Mike, you think, coming?
So, on the General Motors front, they've already extended the floor plan credits the amount of time that there is a little bit. With the rates going down right now, from a prime rate standpoint, we can actually. I'm looking at making some moves. I'm not going to. There's a saying in my company with my owner that he'll gladly give me enough rope to hang myself or enough rope to make a basket and carry all the money. I'm banking on the basket, but it's going to be there's a lot of rope involved on some of the moves we're making right now. As far as the customer experience, the gentleman that commented on that, I think it goes twofold. I do think it does. There's a lot of truth in the fact that customers, I mean, we've been knowing it for years. Transparency is the key. A smooth transaction's the key. Surveys will tell you that handing off from employee to employee, they don't like that. I would argue that, is it really that they don't like, or is it the way the handoff is that they don't like? You know, a lot of it's also the technique that's used, but I do think we have an advantage as dealers over a car or a big entity. And not to go too far on that topic, but I think there's a human element to it as well. We're strategizing through this, and actually my kids, I got kind of inspiration and ideas here from a weird source, but my kid's Taekwondo teacher is probably one of the sharpest businessmen I've ever seen, and as soon as this went down, he started doing everything on Zoom, and actually went so far to offer free classes, a different set. You still had to pay for the ones you were taking to the general community, and got on the nightly news, got all this free publicity from doing this, and he's doing ways to have the kids interacting in these very competitive Taekwondo classes without actually being there. But he didn't replace it with a video, or he didn't just replace it. There's a human element to it, and I think as dealers, there's something to say for that.
Hey, Matt, really quick, in case you're leaving, or just make sure you tell Jamie we said hi, and thanks for driving you around. So I've seen you get out of the car, man. So make sure that we let her know we appreciate it.
I think he's on mute, Dave.
Okay.
Guys, thank you very much. I had to walk out to this meeting here, so I appreciate being on. I wish everybody a lot of luck here, and eyes forward. We're all come through this. I watched a quote where someone said, never bet against a car dealer. They'll do whatever it takes, and I mean it's proof. Our teams, our staff, we'll make this happen.
That's right, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Take care.
All right.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead. Or go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, let's go back to Ron and get Ron back in the conversation real quick. Matt brought up a great point earlier when it comes to, the inventory decisions right now are probably paramount. But so what have you done, if anything, or how are you seeing it inventory-wise as far as maybe what dealers should be doing? I know it's going to be different in each part of the country, but what's your take?
So, well, and I can only speak from my little world here is, we're looking at these Ram truck sales. If I continue to go the way I'm going for the next 45 days, I'm actually going to run out of trucks. And that's a good problem to have, don't get me wrong. But I still have several other model lines that I'm selling. And as hard as it is, I still went ahead and ordered, Ram inventory. I probably put in like 20, 25 orders. They'll be here July, whatever the case is. It's very hard to do any to order something in this kind of market, but you still have to kind of have faith in what you're doing. So we are looking and as far as my new cars, that seems to be what's crazy is I'm seeing very little used car business, but I'm seeing new car business. So I have to keep that stock, that shelf full, and the thing of it is on our side too is we have to watch. Like the values of these trades that we're looking at. I was on a call the other day with my 20 group, and there was the conversation that one of the things that came up was they pulled up 3 cars. I think it was like a Chevy Tahoe, an F-150, and a Toyota Camry. And I think the Tahoe literally had, I think, almost a $7,000 variable between, say, I'll just use an example, Blackbird versus NADA. So I don't even you take however you do your appraising, however you do, you take your information and however you decide. I mean, I'm comfortable with whatever we trade, with whatever number we can put on it. But there's a lot of this, at least in this area, what we're seeing with the auctions online. There's no real activity. Online buying. People, do you stock? Do you not stock? Do you what do you do? So for us, it's like I said, we're looking at each deal and trying to put our best deal together, and moving forward that way. So it's like I've always looked at it this way in what we do is like when things are slow, pen up and order. When things are going good and you're selling lots of cars, don't order anything. I know that sounds strange, but it's like I've done this for so long that it's like when it's slow, heavy up. And when it's great, because then the DM's going, hey man, you sold all these cars, order more, and that seems to be where the wave is, and you get bottlenecked. So just again, I've only worked here, and that's what works for me.
Yeah.
Thankfully I have a real good relationship with a lot of my local dealers for dealer trades. And some of the bigger stores, and like I said, that I have, and I think that's important too, to maintain relationships with your competitors, so to speak, because they're going to need a favor and you have it, and you're going to need a favor and they have it, and as long as that's always reciprocated, I think it helps when we work well together. Even if we're competition, we still manage to work things out that way.
It's good.
Yeah,
good.
No doubt. Yeah, thank you.
Guys, listen, I know that you both have a lot of things going on. I mean, you're leading ships there, and you're, you got a lot of, team you're trying to meet with, whether it's in person or over a computer. But we just want to thank you guys for coming on. And listen, in these tough times, both of you guys are inspirations. And I'm 100% sure, and as well as Matt, that there's a lot of dealerships and a lot of people that are employed at car dealerships that are going to be listening to this, whether now or later, and will be encouraged just by hearing, this is what Matt said, and I know you guys echo this. This is the car industry, man. This is the car business, and we're going to get not only through this, we're going to be better when we get through it. We're going to learn something, and we're going to adapt. I mean, and so that's what my experience with this business has always been, and so I want to thank both of you guys for coming on, Mike and Ron, and just pulling for you guys, and look forward to seeing the growth on the other side, man. Thank you both.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good seeing you guys.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you guys.
Thanks, Mike.
We're actually excited about this time. So thank you.
Awesome.
All right, man. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Ron. Dave, and to hear Matt say that too, and that sums it up right there. He said he heard someone say once, or saw a quote that says, "Don't bet against the car business or the car guy or whatever." And that it's just, there's something about that, because it's, where there's a will, it comes down to there's somebody once upon a time, had a reason to for the first time say, where there's a will, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And it's just whoever said that, whoever first said it, I mean, or did it enough to make a quote that we all use. And so, I just come back to that and echo that. Just where there's a will, there's a way. And there's so many tools in the arsenal of the car dealer to use. There's so many tools, whether it's a lender tool, whether it's tools, by the OEM, whether it's an inventory tool. What Ron said is really, it's kind of business 101 if you really understand business when things are down, buy. When things are up, hold.
Oh yeah.
It's a business principle. It's not just his way of doing it. It is a business principle. Now we tend to not do that. We tend to shrink back, and that is why, by the way, that we're seeing, with 70 or so dealerships. I mean, just breaking records. I mean, who would have thought? We're going to listen to this. We, IPD right now in April, are poised and tracking for the next week to have our biggest month of the year.
Yeah.
In January was our biggest month. So this 4 months in this situation could be and will probably be our biggest month. That's because we adapted and we didn't shrink back. And I'm going to tell you something. There's something to that.
Well, you were innovative enough to look for a way to leverage this situation and turn it into a positive, right? So
I really I'm gonna give God
well, that's a good
wisdom there, man. Godly wisdom he gave us and gave our teams. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And being able to have the foresight to listen to that and look for the opportunity and see when it was presented that this is a great thing for everybody, right? So congratulations, by the way, to your side of the company with that. And
well, not only that, dude, on the training side, I'll say this: you guys, how many deals you guys have out? You're tracking really.
It's basically as if this hasn't happened.
Yeah. So let me just say this about these guys. By the way, they're coming back Monday because really, again, they're coming back here Monday, and but they've been at home and working remotely, and they're on track, no exaggeration, maybe even to beat, but certainly to hit a normal month.
Yeah, absolutely.
A normal month.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're very, very thankful for that.
That's
obviously,
crazy,
and it's a great team. But our big thing has just been trying to help dealers. So, which is what this show is all about, by the way. So, thanks for tuning in. And I guess are we at the end?
Yes,
guys?
we are at the end.
So don't forget, next week 3:30 we'll be back here with another amazing group of people, dealers from all over the country, big influencers, and we'll be talking about something that's going to help your business grow.
Next
as
week
we
for sure
walk
we
through this together.
have I may say this name wrong. It's the one you sent me, Cribs, which is Kelly Krause.
Yeah, Kelly
Aberdeen
Krause.
is going to be on. Stephen Jones is going to
That's
be on,
exciting.
and I've got 2 more people I'm waiting to get confirmation on for next week's show, including the owner of a Mercedes group in California.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
it's a really cool story. They reached out to us this week, yesterday, or day before yesterday.
It was actually late yesterday. It was like 5 o'clock when I think you forwarded it to me because I had just left the office when I got it.
Okay, so they reached out to us, and we don't know the complete story. We're dealing with their, some individuals from their firm, where they own 3 Mercedes stores. But it's a story. It's a very heartwarming, cool story of success and victory coming through this tough time. Not only coming through it, not laying off anyone, keeping how many employees was it? 400?
260.
260, my bad. And then, but also during construction was going on during the situation, prior to it and during it. So it's just a really cool story of, I think, would encourage, and they're in California, which is, again, stringent things going on, and they're in the San Francisco market. Well, anyway, we'll let them tell the story next week. It's just a really cool story.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week.
Later.
Get this beat untagged for free at freebeats.io.